information about the status of the SSB Fund for the operational year 2022, how it is being managed, the actuarial outlook for the longevity of the fund, and how transitioning to our online self-service portal enhances your customer service experience. Once again, welcome to the 4th annual SSB Connect. At this time, I'd like to mention that we are streaming this morning's event on our Facebook page. And if you'd like to share that information with those from your companies or organizations who are not here this morning, it's simply facebook.com/SSB Belize. Please stand now at attention as we listen to the national anthem being played by Cindy Burgos. Thank you, Ms. Cindy Burgos, and accompaniment for that wonderful rendition of our national anthem. At this time, I'd like to call Mr. Sean Sebastian to do the invocation. Okay, I don't see him here at this time, so I guess I'll just do a short prayer to bless our event. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Father God, we lift up this event to you this morning. We pray that you would bless this event and all of the participants who are here today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. You all can be seated. We will now begin the presentation segment of our forum for this morning. We have a number of prizes we are eager to give away, so please pay keen attention to these presentations. It is with great pleasure that I will welcome Mrs. Leticia Vega, who will be doing a presentation this morning for us on social protection and social security. In addition, though, she will also be doing the welcome. Before she comes to the podium, I would like to convey a brief bio just to let you know a little bit more about Ms. Vega. Mrs. Leticia Vega is the General Manager of the Policy, Research, and Actuarial Services at the Social Security Board. She has dedicated 28 years of public service, 10 years at the Government of Belize, and 18 years at the Social Security Board, where she has held various positions at the executive management level. These include General Manager of Policy and Programs, General Manager of Service Management, General Manager of Registration, Contribution, and Statistical Services, and General Manager of the Office of Strategic Management. Prior to her employment with SSB, Mrs. Vega spent 7 years leading, that is, the Social Demographic, Census, and Surveys section at the Central Statistical Office, now known as the Statistical Institute of Belize. Mrs. Vega holds a postgraduate diploma for social protection analysis from the International Training Center of the International Labour Organization in Turin, Italy, and is a member of the ITCILO Social Protection Alumni Community. She has a master's degree in population and health from the Universidad de Costa Rica, where she graduated magna cum laude, and has a bachelor's degree in math education from the University College of Belize, where she also graduated magna cum laude. Mrs. Vega has successfully applied her accreditations and experience to her work and continuously and passionately champions quality and increased coverage of social insurance for all workers. As a skilled social protection analyst, Mrs. Vega helps advance the social protection agenda in Belize and enjoys analyzing the rapidly changing dynamics of social security while offering technically viable and politically supportable solutions. Join me in welcoming Mrs. Leticia Vega to the podium as she does the welcome and also the presentation on social protection and social security. Let us welcome her.
A pleasant good morning, Belize. I take this opportunity to quote the late Mr. Edison Seferino Coleman's popular morning greeting in Radio Belize. Let me say, buenos dias, buiti binafi, ciao shang shalom, guten morgen, hon bon matino. May today be the most wonderful, the most beautiful day for you and yours. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Social Security Board, I am honored to welcome you to the annual SSB Connect, your fund, your future. SSB embraces inclusion in all its dimensions: social, political, economic, and cultural. I challenge myself to welcome each one of you as valued members of the SSB family in the rich languages in this nation. Welcome, bienvenidos, masa hech all, kum olanech, bash kawalik, mabriga, willkommen, swagat, Huan Yin. The annual SSB Connect exemplifies the importance of good governance in all that we do as your agents in managing the fund. Good governance was even more crucial than ever before during our collective response in times of crisis, such as the recent COVID-19 pandemic and Hurricane Lisa. The International Social Security Association calls on 5 principles of good governance: accountability, transparency, predictability, participation, and dynamism. The SSB Connect brings these 5 components to the forefront by delivering what is mandated of us and ensuring that what is delivered is responsive to the evolving needs of the individual and society. We are happy to share with you the true state of the Social Security program and how it is being governed. Thank you for being a part of this important event.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members of the board. Again, we have with us Mr. Montas and, of course, our key stakeholders. I want to start my presentation on social protection and social security, acknowledging the board for giving this space for us to get to know more about how social security fits in the national social protection agenda. Globally, there are 17 what we call Sustainable Development Goals, are referred to as SDGs. Out of these 17, there are 5 that are directly linked to social protection. We have SDG number 1, no poverty, or the elimination of poverty. And you know that in Belize, based on the last survey done on poverty, there is 52% declared in 2018 of the poverty rate. That compares to 41% in 2009. There are also the SDG number 3 that has to do with good health and well-being. I see several people here as well with SSB and NHI, working arduously with government to increase the coverage of the national health insurance, for example. Then we also have SDG number 5, gender equality, and SDG number 8, decent work and economic growth, and SDG number 10, reduce inequalities. These 17 SDGs have a total of 169 targets. These are global targets that were actually adopted by the United Nations countries in 2015. I will only mention 3 of these that are really very important for us, both social security and the social protection agenda. And that's the SDG 1.3 with the no poverty, to implement a social protection system, including floors, and to ensure no one is left behind. What the government has done is we do have what we call an SDG joint program, where government of Belize and the United Nations, as well as Social Security, work jointly to work towards initiatives to alleviate poverty and to ensure economic growth. We also have SDG 3.8 to achieve universal health coverage. As you know, there are also efforts ongoing to extend the NHI coverage throughout the country. And SDG 8.5 target, promote full and productive employment and decent work with equal pay for all. This, as I mentioned before, SDGs were adopted in 2015, and the target date is 2030. We only have 7 years more left to make social protection a reality for all. However, the reality is very different globally. The last check was done by the United Nations and with the countries, of course, providing the different statistics. In general, there is less than 1 out of every 2 persons that are covered with effective coverage of social protection across their life cycle. In the Americas, it's 6 out of every 10 persons, but it can go as low as 70.4%, for example, in Africa. So universal social protection is top on the agenda, not only globally, but also nationally. It is at the core of what we refer as a human-centered recovery, ensuring that all workers in all types of employment enjoy adequate and comprehensive social protection to everyone. Finance, this is very important, finance in a sustainable and equitable way based on the principle of solidarity. There are many other principles, but I want to highlight the following principles: the solidarity, collective financing, and risk pooling. Now, what do we mean by solidarity? I think we hear a lot of that word, right? It implies the relationship between the healthy and the sick, the young and the old, as well as among persons of different levels of income, from those that have more to those that have less. So everyone contributes to the system of Social Security based on their contributory potential. I think in Belize we refer to as the wage bands, the different bands that we have, and receive benefits based on their needs. So depending on what is the situation, could be sickness, could be maternity, could be retirement, those are their needs, and it can vary amongst the populations. So in general, there is a redistribution of wealth based on social justice. A recent research done on social protection shows that for every dollar that is invested in social protection, there is an increase in economic output between $2 to $5. Now, when we speak about social protection, we also speak about different levels. The bottom is what we call or refer to as the social protection floor. It's the basic guarantees that we have for our population. And it comprises of 4 different areas. The first one, it's all the people, all residents. They have access to essential health care, including maternity care. The second component, is for children. So it's in your lifespan, as I mentioned. So for children, they have basic universal coverage. And that includes nutrition, education, care, and other necessary goods and services. And then after the child grows, we have the working age population. For us in Belize, it's from 14 to 60 years. So for those that are in active age, they should be able to earn sufficient income in cases of sickness, unemployment, maternity, and disability, and receive basic income security. And finally, the 4th, that's the elderly. All residents in old age receive basic income security through pensions, or can also be in transfer cash in kind. So who finance, or how is the floor financed? It's financed by non-contributory tax finance schemes, but the basic guarantees in terms of the insurance guarantees can also be financed by Social Security contributions. And then going now to the second level, that's where Social Security comes, that's the social insurance aspect. Globally, there are 3 out of 10 persons that are legally covered with Social Security. In Belize, it's 4 out of 10 persons. However, the sad news in a way is that there is a huge gap too between women and men. There is a 13 percentage points difference in coverage, with women's lagging behind men's. The Social Security Board, as you know, is a contributory scheme, mainly financed by employee and employer contributions, as well as those returns on investments with those contributions that are invested, and to later pay what we call the long-term benefits, such as your retirement benefit. There are multiple approaches to reaching Social Security for all, and it depends on the country's choices. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So here I have 2 examples. At the top, you can see the social protection floor being social assistance and both social insurance. Then the next level with the social insurance, and then the 3rd level being the voluntary insurance under government regulation. However, it can also have a different approach could be universal benefits. That means the entire population have universal benefits in different areas. Then the second level, when it comes to social insurance, we have social insurance and social assistance, and then the voluntary insurance under government regulation. So as I mentioned, if there is no really recipe, like direct recipe for what the country can do, it's multiple approaches to reaching that point of social security for all. When we speak about social security, we often refer to the minimum standards for social security, and that is defined in ILO Conventions 102 of 1952. The Social Security Board currently has all its benefits in 3 areas. Short-term benefits that include maternity grant, maternity allowance, and sickness benefits. Then we also have the long-term benefits that include retirement, invalidity, and survivor benefits, and employment injury benefits that has funeral grant due to EI, injury benefit, disablement, death benefit, and medical care. In addition to these benefits, we also have the non-contributory pension. However, from the list of the ILO Convention 102 of benefits that should guarantee basic coverage for all, we do not cover in Belize family allowances nor unemployment benefits. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic showed that we all need social protection, not just the poor and the vulnerable. During the period of March 2020 and May 2021, there were 222 countries worldwide that adopted 3,333 social protection programs. However, most of these programs were temporary in nature. In Belize, what we see there is there is a sudden drop in 2020 of active insured persons and a spike in unemployment. Right now, however, the whole economy is again catching up, and I would say the economic growth is quite favorable. After the pandemic, in 2022, for example, we had over 15,000 active insured persons. Now, when we speak about social security, we always make reference to a dynamic social security. There are many reforms that we are going to hear today, but I will just highlight a few. The first is the cost assessment of unemployment insurances in Belize, which includes the active labor market policy. Again, this is a national initiative as part of the SDG joint program that is headed by both GOB and the United Nations, and particularly the ILO. And Social Security plays a key role in this cost assessment. The other type of reform measures we're taking is to increase, in terms of benefits, the coverage. So we need to target difficult to cover groups, inclusive of the self-employed, the domestic workers, and the informal economy. We know that the informal economy is growing, especially during the pandemic. We hear a lot of entrepreneurs type of work, you know, the MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises coming. So how can we cover all that are engaged in this type of work? Then we also speak about the adequacy. How can we improve the adequacy of these benefits to make them relevant? We know that we want to move from wage bands to percentage of salary with cost of living adjustments. Of recent, we do have the minimum wage increased, but SSB also needs to move. You know, minimum wage increase, how we look now on our lower bands, for example. Then when we speak about the sustainability of the fund, we always have to make reference to automatic triggers and provisions, and I know later on you will hear more about this area to ensure the sustainability of the fund. And finally, but not last, how can we enhance customer experience? We have what we call the portal, the Peranza portal, which will also be a part of this morning sessions. And we have the SSB's My Social Security portal, and it helps immensely to have the ease of doing business improved. And we also have a future and other things that can be done. Currently, we have the active insured persons and the portal, and also for employers, we can now be paying our contribution payments, for example, using the new portal. But further on, the availability of, for example, the contribution history, as well as how you calculate your pensions, and communicate with us, you know, online. So all of this at your fingertips. I don't want to mention more because then I will be taking over Ward's presentation. So the SSB Connect, Your Fund, Your Future, It's going to highlight, well, in this presentation, is social protection, social security. So connecting social security with the national agenda as well as the global agenda. We are also going to hear about the core operations, registration, contribution, collection, compliance, and all the benefits, and how do we stand in these areas. And then a financial review that will include as well, in addition to finance investments area, the actuarial report and all its projections and reform, recommendations for reform. And then finally, the My Social Security portal, that we will have a very good presentation on what we have available online, as well as give you the opportunity at the end of this session of the event to go and register if you haven't done so. So it's hands-on. And of course, because it's an annual general meeting type of, we must include the question and answer, the open discussion level on all these areas. I thank you for your attention. Gracias.
Thank you, Mrs. Vega, for that presentation. I am sure that you all learned quite a lot just now. When I was here earlier, I did not draw your attention to the table that we have on the stage that has 8 different gift baskets that we will be giving away today. So remember, I had said to you to pay attention to these presentations because you might just win one of those gift baskets. So while we still have Mrs. Vega with us this morning, I will ask her to approve of the answers that you may give to this question. I have a very easy question to ask, and the person with the right answer will get one of those gift baskets. It's a very easy question. What is social protection? You can raise your hand and someone will come and bring a microphone to you so that you can share your answer with us. Again, the question is, what is social protection? I can share with you a little bit more about what's in these gift baskets to, sweeten this thing a bit more. So, we have blackberry wine. We have Lizette's sweet and secret sauce. I think that's very delicious. We have Marie Sharp's pepper sauce. We have cashew wine. Let's see. We have some promotional items from SSB in here as well. We have a really nice cup. Sometimes in the office you need a cup to drink something out of. So I think it's a fully loaded basket. It's kind of heavy too. Let me put it back. So again, I asked the question. Go ahead, yes. Yes, please. She'll give you the mic and Mrs. Vega will approve your answer. All right, yes, Mrs. Vega is giving you the yes. So you have won the first basket, fully loaded. Thank you so much for your participation. Really appreciate it. Okay. Okay, so now what we'll be showing you is a presentation from Mrs. Arlene Neal. She's the General Manager for Service Management, and she'll be giving you a brief overview of last year's operation. So please, you will see a video right now of her presentation.
Who is our presence today?
My name is Arlene Neal, the General Manager for the Service Management Division of the Social Security Board. The Service Management Division is pleased to share with you, our valued stakeholders, key operational highlights and achievements for the year 2022. Service Management continues to fulfill SSB's mandate through our vision of a Social Security system with inclusive, fair, and dependable coverage for our beneficiaries. To further realign our resources to deliver a customer-centered and financially sustainable Social Security program that provides lifetime coverage for our beneficiaries, the division was expanded through structural realignment in April 2022. Our 5 departments, 9 branch offices, and 1 sub-office in Placentia provide services to you, our customers, through our annual operational targets, guided by established service standards and service offerings. We deliver SSB services for registration, contributions which include compliance, benefits, pensions, long-term benefits, and customer services. We continue to enhance the way we serve you by automating our processes, integrating our systems, and enabling access to online services via a secure platform. During the year 2022, the following enhancements were deployed for improved service delivery as we transition to the online platform. Employer registration automated, back office internal process, customer care center, expanded channels of choice, biometric enrollment to increase access authentication, My Social Security portal redesigned with new look and easier login, sickness benefit claim web form submission via My Social Security portal. Social Security exists to register eligible persons, collect contributions, and pay benefits to qualified insured persons and their beneficiaries. Here are a few highlights from 2022. Active insured persons saw an increase of 6.8% from the previous year, totaling 115,665. Active employers recorded 11,030, reflecting an increase of 3.4% over 2021. Contribution income from active employers, insured persons, and self-employed persons for 2022 was $143,852,810, an increase of 18.3% over 2021. This performance is attributed to our compliance strategies as well as the final phase of the contribution reform of 1% contribution increase in April 2022. In the short-term benefits branch, 76,418 claims were processed, an increase of 41% over 2021. 45,872 short-term benefit claims were allowed, reflecting an increase of 29.1% over 2021, and 23,211,834 were paid to 33,883 recipients. 3,564 long-term benefit claims were allowed in 2022, which is a decrease of minus 2.8% as compared to 2021. In total, 16,702 recipients were paid $79,374,327 in long-term benefits. 1,365 employment injury benefit claims were allowed in 2022, or 4.7% increase over 2021. Under this branch, 4,800,000
$823,315 were paid in benefits to 1,817 recipients. Further details on the number of benefit recipients and benefit value by the 3 benefit branches are available in our 2022 annual report. As we transition into 2023, we continue to make strides in the enhancement of online services and have since deployed contributions history back office, online contribution statement submission, and upload for employers and the self-employed. With continued focus on customer feedback and staff engagement, we remain committed to increase efficiency and improve service standards by leveraging technology to serve you better.
Let's give Mrs. Arlene Neal a round of applause for that presentation. Thank you, Ms. Arlene. We now welcome Mr. Leo Vasquez, who is the General Manager for Corporate Services, to do the financial review for 2022. Welcome, Mr. Leo.
Thank you, thank you. Good morning, folks. Okay, well, I'm glad to see that the has filled up. Financial review, so we'll make this very short. You know, not many people want to get involved with the financials, but I want to start with. Last year we held the 2022 SSB Connect. During that presentation, one of the points we tried to demonstrate was the value of a contribution, value of a pension relative or compared to a contributions. Why I tell you this? Fast forward to today. Among the questions or comments or statements, 2 things prevail. The SSB greedy, SSB I pay and pay and pay, I collect nothing, or I will collect nothing. So my objective is twofold, to show you SSB, there are benefits to being a member. There's value in retirement pensions. So what we've seen in terms of what we have paid and the potential that one can receive. So I will start by quickly, Arlene and Leticia has done a lot of the presentation in terms of the stats, the claims, the number of days, the approvals. So we won't get into all of that. But the culmination of all that operational stuff, we can find in our, now you will have the actual details in the annual report. So this is a simplified version of the statement of profit, and it will vary slightly from one than the annual report because that includes an NHI, which this is an SSB only. As you know, NHI is funded by the government of Belize, administered by Social Security and the NHI unit, Dr. Figueroa. But this is, I want to show you the SSB side of it, okay? Arlene alluded to the $143 million in revenue. Again, you remember in 2022, in April 4th, 2 things happened. We increased the rate, went from 9% to 10%, and we increased the phase 3 of the contribution reform, being the 520 wage ban, okay? And of course, there were some compliance strategies. The compliance rate increased, so 2022 for the April to December, $143 million in contributions revenue, followed by investment income. I will just state that number here. I will come back to that figure at the end of the presentation when we get into some of the investments. Other income of 2.4, the main driver for that number is really your the $26 that you pay for your new Social Security cards and obviously renewals. And to a lesser amount, the assessments or interest on assessments makes that up for a grand total of $163.7 million in terms of revenue. Now, one of the reasons, as Letty had mentioned in her presentations, we exist to pay the benefits. I am pleased to say, to counter the first one about not giving back, 2022 became the first year that the fund hit $100 million in benefits, okay? Primarily driven by, you see the short term, the long term in terms of retirement, branch survivors invalidity, and the list is there. But $108 million is what we paid out in 2022 alone to beneficiaries, short-term pensioners, okay, which, like I said, we have never hit that number, and so that is something to celebrate. But there's a flip side to that. We will discuss that, and I'm sure Mr. Montas will get into that when he presents. Of course, again, Arlene mentioned the number of branches that we have in the country, all districts, 9 branch offices, 1 suburb. So there's a cost of the $22.2 million to administer. We have to keep the salaries, allowances, the lights running, telephone, computer licenses. All that makes a part of the $22 million that you will see in the annual report. And of course, any accountant, there's a depreciation, amortization that's there. So all of that means we were able, in 2022, we had an excessive income of $34.1 million was the results of operations for 2022. A good number by any measure. So what that means, we're able then to, allow me to get to the next, could you do the next slide for me? Here it goes. All right, so in terms of that $34.1 million, 2 things will happen there for us. Obviously, our reserves benefits went up by the $34 million, and because of collections, what I want to show you, which is a simplified version of the balance sheet, was our cash position improved from $100 million to $132.7 was the cash, was SSB's cash position that's available for investments. Now, so that is really the long and the short in terms of just the financial presentations, a quick snapshot. What I really wanted to focus on was on the nagging question. Well, and I forgot to mention one. One is about, well, I will get nothing back, and why do you then need to take my money and invest? Why is SSB using money for investment purposes? So the second part is where I want to focus on for you. And I'm going to use, if this thing allows to work with me. Okay. I wanted to talk about the potential value of a pension for a potential, and I want to use the wage band of the 500 and over, the last one, for the simple, a couple of reasons, but the main one is over 26% of our members are already at that bracket. At the 520, as you know, 10%, $52. We have a couple, the other ones are 440 to 480s, but from 300 to the 520, 55% of our active insured persons or who contribute to this fund are already there. And in a couple of years, one will get to the 520. So this is why I want to focus. So if we just do the math, and I wanted to use if I'm a young 25-year-old and I will work for 35 years, and at 60, I will come in and retire. Again, all things being equal, there are no changes to the current system of 5. I know Letty mentioned about the automatic triggers, but for the purpose of this presentation, what we know today will continue for the next 35 years. And so if I'm 25, and I want to now, the employee's contribution rate, as you know, is 45% of that $52 or $23.40. One makes a contribution for the 52 weeks per year, so $1,216.80 for the 35 years. So that employee or that insured person who is an employee contributes to the fund for those 35 years at that rate, $42,588 in contributions over the lifetime. So they say, well, I pay and I pay and I pay, and I get nothing back. So just for an example, a 5-year retirement pension, what those numbers look like. Again, because of the 35 years, you would qualify for the max rate of 60%. So you're 312 times 4 weeks, 1248, but we pay every 28 days for 13 pension retirement periods. So this $16,224 came up earlier in Arlene's presentation. That is your annual payout, and we do that for 5 years for $81,120. Two things will happen here. I want to show the recovery of those funds actually happens when they say, I get nothing back. You, the employee, or that insured person, will recover his or her money in 2.63, or at the 2 years, 8 months, all that the employee has contributed to the fund will be recovered. Everything from that point is free money to that employee. So I go now to the next slide. Simply, one will counter, well, it's more than an employee who contributes, and that's fair. Employer, for the same 35 years, the 52,000 and the 42 will give you 94,640 when you do the math. So quickly, the 38,000 will be used. So the 52,000 covers the 38,000 up to 5 years, 10 months. And this works for all wage bands, whether you're at the 440, 480, 320, 5 years, 10 months, all contributions by employer and employee will match your annual payout. Again, everything from that 5 years, 10 months, that means it is free money to all of us in this room, to every insured person. But who's going to pay for that? And that is where the SSB, the investment of the funds, is so critical. Okay? Our pension portfolio, our investment portfolio, when I showed the balance sheet, was $444.1 million. Just a quick illustration of, and it's in the various vehicles that we have, investment associates being the BEL and BTL. But why I bring this up is because that 444 million gave us the $21 million in investment income. But if we are to match or to meet those pension obligations, 21 million will do nothing for us. I would argue that 444 needs to be improved at least to 500 by the end of 2023. We should be doing at least 25 million. Even that figure, Mr. Montas will argue, that is simply not sufficient. I would then counter and say that investment income really needs to be about 30 million consistently if we are going to meet our pension obligation, just retirement. For no other reason, there's no SB, there's no employment injury. If we are to meet those financial obligation payments, investment of the funds is critical to get to that investment income of $30 million. So the one thing I want to say is when you see us advertising or public notice for investments, you'll be reminded of the need why we have to invest. Because without this, we're in a whole heap of trouble. Is really the long and the short of it. Because I promise you a brief presentation, no one getting numbers, but that is our reality. If we are to pay the pensions, we have to invest the funds to do so. And I would say we should be hitting that $30 million mark every single year. Now, the trick is to find those investments, and that is where our fiduciary responsibility comes in. That is our commitment to you, and that is something that we take very seriously. So I believe you're listening, so thank you for that. So I am done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leo, for that really great presentation. And right on the heels of that presentation, I have another very easy question to ask. And this one you can answer from what you understand from his presentation. Why do we need to invest? That is the question. Why do we need to invest? So feel free. Yes? All right, we have somebody right here. Can we get a mic for her? Not sure. No. Someone's going to answer yes. Why do we need to invest?
Employees' pension, we need to invest.
Okay. Mr. Leo? He's giving a thumbs up. He's giving a thumbs up. So you are our second winner for today. I'd like to call you and the first winner to come and get your basket at this time. It's right here. Just come on up and I'll give it to you. All right, let's give them a hand clap for participating. All right. It is now my pleasure to welcome Mr. Hernando Perez Montas. He is SSB's actuary. He will be presenting the actuarial report. So I'm very interested, and I look forward to this presentation. Welcome, Mr. Montas. All right, just give him 1 or 2 minutes to get mic'd up.
Well, another meeting in 2023. Social Security now is 40 years old. It is becoming an all-age scheme. And after 40 years, at last, as of 1st April 2022, the 10% contribution rate was approved by government thanks to the recommendation of the board, and the $520 ceiling was also approved as of 1st April 2022. These were the two key amendments that we have been struggling since 2019. It was a long fight to get these two key amendments in place to ensure the long-term sustainability of the Social Security scheme, which is now 40 years old. In addition to that, the board approved my recommendation to restructure the rate of contributions amongst the three benefit branches: the short-term branch, the employment injury branch, and the long-term branch. Now, the long-term branch, the pension scheme, is getting 7.2% of the 10%. Before, it was getting much less. That means that out of the $100, $72 will go to the long-term branch to cover the increase in cost. These have been key amendments that will ensure the long-term sustainability forever of the long-term, of the short-term branch and the employment injury branch. You have to remember that you have three autonomous branches. According to the Act, you have three different branches. Each one is autonomous. The long-term sustainability of the short-term branch and the long-term sustainability of the employment injury branch has been ensured with this amendment in place indefinitely, hopefully. As to the pension branch, the long-term branch, remember, you are contributing a small amount of 7.2% to get pensions of 60%. That means that as the scheme matures, additional adjustments to the financial basis will be required to ensure the long-term sustainability of the long-term branch, of the pension branch. This has been the situation that happened in 2022, thanks to the amendments that have been in place last year. And remember that this year will be the first year when the full 10% contribution rate will be in force for 12 months. Last year, the 10% contribution rate was effective only for 9 months, which in practice is only 8 months because contributions in December were paid the following months. Thus, this is the key brilliant year from a financial standpoint. As you can see from here, you have a big inflow of funds that you have to invest. And not only that, the relationship, the contributions went up and there was a positive inflow. If this had not been approved, the Social Security scheme will have been in deficit. We are forecasting that these contributions now will last until the end of the present decade. Between 2028 and 2029, additional adjustment will have to take place to ensure the long-term sustainability of the long-term branch. Why? Because from now on, as from next year, the rate of increase in contribution will be about 5% per year, compounded. And the rate of increase in benefits, in pension benefits, will be growing at about 9% per year. So in about 2 or 3 years, and this is the key basic equation, contributions will become equal to benefits. in the long-term branch. The other two branches will be okay. I'm talking about the long-term branch. In 2 or 3 years, forget about investment income, forget. Don't look at that. Contributions and expenditure, which is benefit plus administrative expenditure, in 2 or 3 years, they will be equal. No more surpluses. And then investment income comes in place to cover the deficit in 2026, 27, 28, 29. Therein lies the big importance of the investment income in the sustainability of the long-term branch. Clear so far? The actuarial allocation contribution, we have been attaining these 2 factors. They will ensure the long-term sustainability, contain the capitalization of reserves of the employment injury branch, which has a surplus. The AE branch has a surplus. We expect it to come down gradually and to strengthen the financial situation of the pensions branch. So far, excellent. The analysis shows this very important element which I just mentioned. In 2 years, the capitalization of the long-term branch will depend exclusively on investment income. Until later in the decade, you increase the ceiling again, you increase the rate of contributions, and then you are allowed to also increase pensions in payment to improve the purchasing power of the pension due to inflation. The problem is that the board and the investment committee have no control of inflation. Inflation is an external variable. They have no control what will happen with inflation, which last year inflation caused a very big problem, not due to internal factors, but the problem with the pandemic and the war in Ukraine. Worldwide, there was big inflation all over the world, even in the US, Belize, and so on. So the experience last year was very problematic for all economies all over the world. And the rate of nominal return, came down last year due to these external factors. And the real return, due to the big inflation worldwide, also affected the investment portfolio, not only in Belize, in all Social Security schemes in the region. In all Social Security schemes in the region. The problem with investment is that, according to my projections, you need a real rate of return of 3% per year. According to my expectation, you need a real rate of return of 3, real, inflation adjusted. To get 3% with 2% inflation, we expect that long-term inflation in Belize will go like that, but the average will be about 2%. You need a return on the entire investment portfolio, the return on asset, what we call ROA. You need a return on the investment portfolio not lower than 5%. Minimum 5%. It doesn't mean that in a specific year to get a lower return. That's why I emphasize a long-term return of 5% going down the road. It will be lower this year because of these legacy factors, the war in Ukraine. The problem is, the situation is very problematic. Oil prices are still going up. They went up yesterday, they went up last week, they are not coming down. Ukrainian ports are closed by Russia. So the price of wheat will go up all over the world. When you don't produce wheat, so the price of bread might go up in Belize and in the whole region. It's a very complicated situation, but hopefully this will be temporary. The important thing is that the sustainability of the long-term branch is ensured for several years, thanks to the amendments that have taken place. Thanks to the amendments that have taken place. So there is a big challenge. And the challenge is in this economy of Belize, how to maximize the investment income with a prudent investment approach. And that's the role that the committee, investment committee, and the board are dealing with on a continuous basis. Investing is not very easy. The decision by the board, as you remember, the chair is here, they want to, the portfolio is fully concentrated with utilities. And remember that the last year the board wanted to diversify the investment. I am recommending strongly to diversify away from utilities. Utilities, the SSB has been very generous with utilities, and even this year they allocated something to another utility. But that's enough because about 22% of the portfolio is allocated in utilities. They have been performing quite well so far. But the board decided that they want a diversification of the portfolio to enhance development. And they are dealing with that by looking at the set of investment income. Remember that the actuary only provides guidelines on investment. The responsibility to invest in a specific instrument is a dual role of the investment committee and the board, and they are dealing with that. This year will be a transition year again. Next year, we expect the whole spectrum to be regularized. But again, I repeat, we cannot control inflation worldwide because Belize cannot do anything about that. This year, you have a big cash flow thanks to the legal amendments. And we are in August already, and you have 4 more months to develop this investment strategy and allocate about 100 million that you still had in a free cash flow. That was my assessment a few months ago, but now this 100 million, I understand, has been coming down to only 80 now. So the board is struggling to this 80 million to be allocated in the 4 months of this year to ensure a full potential of investment income as from 2024. Once they allocate this 80 million that remain under evaluation, I think there is a portfolio. I saw a portfolio of potential investment that were presented 2 days ago. Once these funds are allocated, you expect the investment income to return to a level in excess of 30 million per year, not 24 million per year. So by next year, we expect 30 million per year to ensure a higher capitalization of reserves. Going down, administrative expenditure is now down from excessive levels that you had 5 years ago before the increase in the ceiling. Before the increase in the ceiling and the rate of contributions, the cost of administrative expenditure were 1/4 of contributions. 1/4 of contributions were spent on administrative expenditure. Thanks to the increase in the ceiling and thanks to the increase in the rate, the cost of administrative expenditure is coming down to now 1.7%. And we expect later this decade, once the ceiling is increased And once the rate of contribution is increased again, for that level to come down to the average, the optimal average, that will be 1.5%. When you increase the ceiling, you have an inflow of funds. And when you increase the rate, you have another inflow of funds. Whereas the cost of administrative expenditure doesn't go up at the same rate, so the rate comes down to a lower level. That means that more money coming in is being allocated to reserves than before, and this is very good. Here you can see the chart is coming down between 2017, coming down drastically, it came down. The problem with Belize is the distribution of district offices. Do not compare the cost of administration in Belize with the CARICOM area. In some of these islands, they have one office for Social Security. Only one office for Social Security. So it's very simple to say, oh, I don't spend too much. I only have one office. Here you have a distribution of offices because of the dimension of Belize as compared to other CARICOM areas. So this is a normal behavior, and the ceiling, when you increase it again, the cost will come down. Clear? This is the situation of the short-term branch. Before, the short-term branch had deficit up and down, up and down. Now, with the allocation that was approved by the board last year to the short-term branch, the sustainability will be permanent forever. And the minimum reserve is in accordance with Section 17(1) of the financial regulations. As we go down this road, we expect fertility rates in Belize to come down. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we had a discussion, Debbie, when I mentioned that fertility rate in Belize is low. I don't know who mentioned that. We still have ladies here having children at 13, 14, 15, and 17. And this is a big problem that has to be collected. Once the level of education goes up, this should come down. The projection for the population of Belize is to increase, according to the United Nations, is to increase to 550,000 people up to in 60 years, and then stay like that. That's the projection for Belize. It's increasing. The population of Belize is increasing very fast, and that's a big problem. Sickness benefit is another issue. It goes up and down with pandemics and so on. However, you have dealt quite well. You had a pandemic, a dengue pandemic 3 years ago, and you were able to cover these expenses very easily. But now the COVID situation also was under control, and the short-term branch was able to deal with the increasing demand. As to NHI, I commend Dr. Figueroa because they are doing an excellent job containing the operational cost of NHI. And what has happened in the last 3 years is that the reserve situation of NHI has been strengthened tremendously now. The reserve they have now is about 3 times the reserve they had a few years ago. So they have a good buffer reserve now to cover any increase in clinical demand, medical demand, clinical utilization. So far, so good. The employment injury branch, this is all the short-term branch, the situation of the short-term branch. The current surplus is okay. We expect the surplus to continue indefinitely for the next indefinite period. The cost of the short-term branch is in accordance with the statute allocation that has been allocated to them. As to the employment injury branch, it has a surplus, and a huge surplus. But the amendment that was approved by the board has contained the increase of reserve of the employment injury branch. Now, of each dollar, less than 10% is being allocated. Of each dollar in contribution, less than 10% is being allocated to the employment injury branch. Less than 10% is being allocated to the employment injury branch. So we expect this surplus to be contained and come down sharply, slowly. And now we go with the critical long-term branch. 72% of contributions sent to the set of amendment. Before, they only got about 50% of contributions. Now they get 72% sent to the reallocation of the contribution branch and the new ceiling. However, it will depend basically on the return on investment. The exact duration of the period of equilibrium is when contributions plus investment income to the long-term branch equals expenditure in benefit and administration. When contributions plus investment income equals benefit and administration. Once you reach that period of equilibrium, if you do not adjust the financing basis, then the amount of reserve will start coming down. And this is very serious. The amount of reserve in a Jones scheme, actually 40 years is not old yet. It's middle age. So you have to adjust the contribution rate before the period of equilibrium or at the maximum once that period of equilibrium is reached. The struggle with the problem in Belize is the social cost by employers. Employers feel that social costs are high. When you look at the social cost in Sweden or Japan or Germany, an employer is paying on social expenditure about 40% of salary. About 40%. If you have a salary of 100, they are paying $40 more in social costs, pensions and social security. Belize is spending they are spending a fraction of 10%. An average, I can't remember the average between employer and employee, is about 7%. While employees are paying the rest. So the social costs in Belize are still very low. And it is very important for employers to realize that to ensure the sustainability of the Social Security scheme, they will have to increase their contributions, even though that will increase their social costs. And the structure that we have, according to the ILO, gradually increasing contribution is to do that gradually. So at the scheme before, you started the scheme in 1982. You waited 20 years until 2001 for the first adjustment in contributions from 7 to 8%. You waited 21 years. Between 2000 and 21, again you waited almost 20 years to make the second adjustment to the contribution rates. This will not happen in the future. Now you have less than 10 years for the next adjustment. And going down the road, this 10 years will come down to 7 years, 5 years, and even 2 years in 40 years. So be prepared that adjustment to the financial basis of Social Security scheme will accelerate. Adjustment to the contribution rate will not be again each 20 years. No way. It had to be carried out in 10 years. So social expenditure and the cost of employment to the employer will have to increase. One thing is for an employer to pay an increase in contribution for 200 employees over 150. And another is for one insured person to increase a few cents in contribution to the Social Security scheme. It's a different thing. The impact on the payroll of the employer is very significant. The impact on the pocket of the insured person is not significant. These are preliminary projections that we have been discussing with Leticia and Debbie of what will happen this decade. Reserves are expected to go increasing 2026 and around 2028 and 2029, depending on the rate of investment income, there will be an accumulation of reserves in nominal terms of about 600 million. And from that date, the accumulation will need to come down because of the period of equilibrium has been reached. If you don't change the rate, then the SSB will have to start selling investments to pay benefits. If you do not increase the rate of contribution, then the board will be forced to liquidate investment to pay benefit, and that has to be avoided. And if no amendment is made, reserve will come down to zero, and the scheme will be broke. That will not happen, don't worry. There are mechanisms in a country to avoid that situation. Longer term, the situation, don't be afraid, is based on the contribution rate today. This projection is based on the 10% today. If you don't increase the rate of contribution, the scheme will be broke in 2045. But something will happen before that, and this will happen before the end of the present decade. That worries me really, is the struggle we had for 3 years with the employers' federations of Belize to get this 8 to 10. Was the discussion we had, they were very reluctant. My recommendation in 2017 was to go from 8 to 10 in 2018. My strong recommendation was to go to 10% in 2018. And only April the 1st, 2022, we got to the 10%, not in 2018. If they had done it in 2018, as I had recommended, you didn't have to adjust contribution at the end of this decade. You could have waited until 2020, until 2033, 34. By not waiting, by delaying the increasing contribution to 10%, because the employers didn't want those adjustments, now you have to do it before the end of this decade, not in 2023, 24. Hopefully, the discussion will start in 2027. I hope that they realize they cannot wait longer as the last time. Self-employed scheme, a disaster. The self-employed scheme is the problem in Social Security, you need mandatory scheme. You don't need voluntary scheme. You play. When you pay, you play when you join. And you cannot have a voluntary, and Leticia knows it very well. Social Security is mandatory, cannot be voluntary. Because you have adverse selection, what we call adverse selection. If I am 20, and my pension will be at age 60, I don't pay. It is voluntary. I join at 50 because in 10 years, by paying for 10 years, I get a pension for 30 years. So Social Security, the cost of the self-employed scheme it's already being financed by the cost of the general scheme. And employers employers might complain about that situation. Why, as an employer, should I finance the deficit of the self-employed? This will come up soon because already the reserves that were accumulated by the self-employed scheme have disappeared. It's zero. They have no reserves. They are being subsidized by the general scheme. So that scheme has to be modified. Hopefully, I have here the amendment that should take place urgently, please, urgently to this self-employed scheme. Adopt the same wage band that you have in the general scheme, not 266 wage band. This is absurd. Eliminate that and adopt the same wage band that you have in the same scheme. When the contributions rate were increased to 10% in the general scheme, the contribution rate for the self-employed have not been amended. They are still at 7. Before the amendment, self-employed pays 7, and the joint contribution for the general scheme was 8. Now you went to 10 for the general scheme, and the self-employed have the big advantage of still paying 7. So they should go to 9 as soon as possible. As soon as possible. And apply the same retirement provision for retirement as for the general scheme. We are in 2023, and next year we are going to be in 2024. And in 2025, there will be elections in Belize. So common sense say, do not try to make amendments before an election. Any amendment should take place much before the next election. So my recommendation is that this amendment should take place as soon as possible, not later than January or February 2024. Clear? The non-contributory pension scheme, good management at last. Good, very good management at last, very controlled, and the cost of the non-contributory scheme has come down to non-material amounts. It has come down to non-material amount. There was a study that was carried out by Leticia a few years ago, but I wonder if the government, with the problem they have now with this amendment, will pay any attention to this minor amendment to the poor people. So the priority will be the amendment to the general scheme. This is not a priority for the poor people to pass the cost of the non-contributory pension scheme to government. Right now, I think the priority is the general scheme. And now we have a long set of amendments, not only to the self-employed scheme, but also to the general scheme. The list is there. It's a long list. We have been discussing it, and so on. The employers, and I think that the unions agreed during the last discussion that they want trigger points. They want automatic adjustment. As Leticia just mentioned, they want a dynamic Social Security scheme. Dynamic means not waiting 20 years for amendment. Dynamic means dealing timely with the amendments required by the Social Security scheme. There are 3 factors that play around: the ceiling, the rate of contribution, ceiling, rate, and the pension adjustment system to ensure the purchasing power of inflation, of the pension due to inflation. These 3 amendments, ceiling, rate, and pension adjustment, should be coordinated. You cannot increase the cost of pension due to inflation tomorrow and leave the ceiling frozen for 8 years. No way, because then the actuarial situation will come down. This is what we call an automatic or semi-automatic adjustment system. What the board is looking later this decade is every 2 or 3 years, all pensions will be adjusted due to inflation. So the real purchasing power of the pension won't be affected by inflation. Won't be affected by inflation. Not only the minimum pension, no. What you have been doing here is increasing the minimum pension and putting the same amount for those with high income and low income. No. Pension adjustment would do for all, for everyone. And finally, the conversion into a dynamic scheme. This is what I am just talking about: ceiling, pension adjustment, and the rate of contribution. Now, things are much better than before. All of you here, I am sure that all of you here are making more than 320 per week. All of you are making more than 320 per week. Now the ceiling goes to 520. In 18 months, you will get 60% of 520 when you retire, even though you were paying for 25 years on 320. Even though you were paying for 25 years on 320, with 3 more years, you will get almost 60% of the average in the last 3 years, 60% of 520 for your life expectancy. And your life expectancy is extending every year. People are living longer. People are living longer. The Japanese females that reaches age 65 is dying now at age 96. The average. They are living longer. We are living longer. Nobody knows why. The problem is that females are living longer than males. Females are living longer than males. Not only in Belize or Europe, females are living longer than males in the jungle of Brazil or Polynesia or whatever, where females carry the heavy workload and men go hunting, and the female have the heavy workload. They live longer, between 4 and 6 years more than males. But now, all the actuarial tables are unisex. So you are favored more than, you pay the same amount than males to the Social Security scheme when you are going to live longer. This doesn't happen in some private pension scheme. In some private pension scheme, when you go to an insurance company, they say, are you a male or a female? Oh, you are a female, you have to pay more. Do you smoke or you don't smoke? Then you have to pay more. And this is what Leti was mentioning about solidarity. That's what we mean, solidarity and social protection. There is a redistribution of income between participants in a society. It all started in Germany during the Industrial Revolution in 150 years ago, when they started the union, and then went to Beveridge in England and say Social Security is a universal right to population. And here you have a scheme, 40 years old. You are going to get, all of you, better pensions. All of you are going to get better pension than 2 or 3 years ago. And, but somebody has to pay. We all have to pay for that. So far, so good. After a long career, I started my career in Washington, D.C. with the OAS, with assignments in Paraguay and Ecuador. Then I went to the ILO in Geneva and started working with the CARICOM countries. And then I went to work with the World Bank in Central America, Panama, Costa Rica, El Salvador. And Belize is the last one. Belize, I don't know why Belize will be my last one. For how long, I do not know. But I do hope that now I am optimistic that the future of Belize, not only the economy, the people of Belize, that they will realize the importance of Social Security, employers and unions, they realize the importance of Social Security for the well-being of the society and the population and everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Montas, for a very, very good presentation with a lot of information. At this time, I want to let you all know that you are free to go and get a coffee break at the back. Maybe you wanted some coffee, but the presentations were just so gripping that you decided you will forego your coffee. So I'm just letting you know you can get some coffee at the back. So we have another giveaway period right now. There was a lot of information shared, right? So this question will be, again, very easy. What was your main takeaway from Mr. Montas's presentation? I see a hand raised over there. Is that a hand raise? Yes, can we give her a mic, please? Microphone, please.
Hello. Okay, my whole take in the whole presentation was that it is important that we increase our rate of contribution because that is what will be able to help us with our pension, and to sustain the economy.
I see Mr. Montas, he is shaking his head. He's approving of your answer. Okay, actually there was somebody else over there who had raised her hand. So, let me see. We'll give her an opportunity to speak as well. Go ahead.
Okay, my takeaway is as what the lady said just now, but to add to it is that without the increases, we won't be able to carry out the pension scheme, and that is very important to us when we get to that milestone. And we noticed that, like he mentioned, that the fertility rate will need to decrease in order for us to sustain the span of life at which we're living right now. So that's what I took.
Thank you, Mr. Montas. Yes, approval. Yes. All right, so we have two winners there. Can you come up, please, to get your prize? And then I have another surprise for you just before Mr. Ward McGregor takes the stage and does his presentation. Let's give them a round of applause for participating. I really appreciate it. Okay, so the surprise that I have for you is there are 3 chairs that I have put a golden ticket underneath. Check under your chairs, and if you have that golden ticket, you will win one of these gift baskets. Yes, there we go. So that's one person. Please come up Second golden ticket. All right. One more. One more golden ticket. All right. This is what it looks like.
Juanita.
Okay. All right, so we're moving along as per our agenda items. I would like to very much welcome Mr. Ward McGregor to the stage. He will be doing a presentation on My Social Security. Round of applause, please.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I guess you stand up for a bit, please. Just everybody stand up. Stretch, please. Just stand up. Stretch. Thank you. Thank you. See, we have to keep ourselves healthy. Part of our social protection, our responsibility to you. Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be talking about some of the ways we're trying to enhance service delivery to you. We did this last year and a couple other presentations where we introduced the fact that we will be deploying new technologies to help you with your interaction with Social Security. So today I'm going to report on where we are. I know lots of the employers here have had some interactions with our portals and new features on that portal. We've been through some of the challenges, and as new technology, things will become better and better as we accept and understand how these things work going forward. So, the faded parts of the picture there, let me see, yep. The faded part of the picture, it's faded because last year we introduced that to you, right? So what our platform is all about, right? It's based on a Microsoft platform that has all the different pieces that we'll be doing. Today we'll be focusing on how that platform interacts with you, how you interact with us at Social Security, and it's be primarily through our portals. It's called, when you go onto our site, it's called the My Social Security portal. And so through that portal, you'll be able to do various things, right? So our beneficiaries, all the customers, or IPs, as we call our insured persons, will be able to do things there, claim benefits, look at your contribution history. Any interaction you have with Social Security will be recorded there. So will the employers, right? So the employers will be able to do their statements online and all the other things that we do. I'll go through those in more detail later on. We'll also have a portal for healthcare providers that will enable and enhance the service to all the IPs in terms of claiming benefits like sickness and maternity and so on. Come on. There we go. So a few weeks ago, all of us got some kind of scare with this breach that happened, one of our partners. And so I know let's top of mind for everybody that wants to interact with us through the portal, right? They're like, okay, is it safe to sign up for this thing? I see it shaking over there, you know. So I want to go through it first to explain to you some of the things that we've been doing to enhance your security, right? So, you know, some of these things impacts the portal, impacts our applications, but it's stuff that we need to do at Social Security to secure your information. So, you know, endpoint security, protection, you know, I don't want to get into the technical details, but all that is, it's to ensure that the boundaries of our systems are protected, right? So people can't get in there. All of us use common infrastructure for internet. In Belize, we use either SMART or BTL, right? But those are public things. We want to secure the things within our borders, so to speak. So that's what endpoint security is. Identity and access management. That's basically to say internally for us at SSB to ensure that the people that are accessing your information have right to do so, right? So you can't access something if you don't have the access to do it. And you only have the access to do it if that's within your job purview, right? Same thing with you. When you sign up at the portal, what do? You ask for a portal account, right? You have your login information. We use your email address. Most people that interact with portals know that, you know, one of the common things you use for your username these days is your email address. So it's very important for that email address be your email address, not your employer's email address, right? So when you're at work, you might have, like I have a McGregor at socialsecurity.org.bz email address. I don't use that because that's for work, right? I use my own email address, and I will explain to you why that's important later on. Patch management, that's just things to allows us to ensure that all the machines we are using, all the equipment we're using is up to date with the latest security patches. External vulnerability, that's what it is. We pay somebody to hack us. Basically, that's what it is. We pay somebody to try and get into our system. I don't say they won't get in. I will not claim here that we're impenetrable. I don't want to do that because I don't want to tick off anybody and say, oh, you think you're bad. Right? No. We're just trying to protect ourselves, right? And then we use biometrics to ensure that one of the key mantra we have is the right benefit goes to the right person at the right time, right? So, okay. So biometrics, let's be focused on that for a while, because this is one that was, you know, if you remember, we spent, I think, 2 years going all over the country telling people about biometrics and why we wanted to do it when we were going to put that into law, right? But basically, biometrics is being used these days by countries and government services all over the world, right? Because it's one of the key ways. Your biometrics, your fingerprint, your facial, your features, your iris scans, those things are yours, right? It's seldom you have someone, actually pretty rare, that you have someone that has the same of these biometrics things, right? So that's why we use biometrics to ensure that your information is protected, that when you come to Social Security and you put your finger on that scanner, that you're the person that's getting that benefit or interacting with us, right? So that's one of the key ways we do that. Now, one of the issues we have is obviously people that sadly don't have hands, right? How do we do that, right? So we have workarounds for that, right? You have older people or people that work in construction where all their fingerprints kind of go away, right? People that work with masonry and so on. So we have to have workarounds for that. We have the facility that will allow us, if, let's say, there is a large number, 30% of the population, we can read their fingers, then we have to figure out something else, right? Then we could add things like facial scan and iris scan to our features. So basically, those are some of the benefits of biometrics. Right now, we only use fingerprints. And actually, your picture, you know. So forever, Social Security was collecting your biometrics because they were every time you get your ID card, take your picture, right? So we're just adding another layer to it. Man, if I could get this thing to work properly. Thank you. So, right now, some of the things that we've done already, right, that you're familiar with, that we've provided you at the portal, so when you come in, one of the first things we did was you were able to come in and we capture information in our new system, right? So now what does that do? That ensures that the information we have about you is now accurate, right? Before we used to get a form, right? Somebody comes in, fill in the form, we send it to Social Security, you come in, and we try and interpret what's on that form. 95% of the time we get it right. There have been some times when we have to go back and forth and say, hey, I don't understand your handwriting here. Can you explain what this is, right? So now that's all in a form, automated, and so you can register online. You can register at the home office. We can update your information. You have your owner's information. That's from an employer perspective. They can register. They can do their information. They can submit statements and manage transactions at the back office. At the portal, as I said before, this is where I get to this point where you create your portal account. So you have right there that line, one access, one account to access what we call all your profiles. What's the profile, right? So first thing is I have my own portal account, right? So all my personal information that I have with Social Security is in that space. So I can see my contribution history when it's all configured. I would be able to create, do claims. So I'll be able to go online and continue applying for a sickness benefit or do my retirement. I'll be able to do, in the future, be able to simulate, so when I retire at 60, or 62, or 65, what's going to be my expected income, if you will, my retirement income. So all those things you'll be able to do at the portal, but one account, right? So now, let's say I'm an accountant, right? And I'm an accountant for Stratagem Belize, right? A firm, Stratagem Belize. And the people that own Stratagem Belize give me the authority, obviously because as their accountant, to do their contribution, submit statements, and all the other financial transactions for them. So when I log in again as W. McGregor at gmail.com, my own email account, what I can do then is I say, okay, I don't want to go in to see my information. I will access now as Stratagem Belize, right? And when I get into Stratagem Belize, I can do business on their behalf. I can only do that on the authority of Stratagem Belize. So there's obviously some things that happen, so when I submit that access, the request for that access, there's some protocol, right? I have to have a certified letter or some kind of authorization letter from the company saying, yes, Mr. Ward McGregor can do business on my behalf on the portal, right? But it's one way to access. You log in, then you have a drop-down list. You'll be able to select what you want to do. Let's say now I'm an accountant, but also I'm a doctor, right? Or maybe I'm a therapist, right? Now I have healthcare responsibilities with Social Security IPs, right? So somebody gets injured, right? They come to me for therapy, so I have to, that's a sickness benefit claim, right? That's a short-term claim. I also will be able to access the portal in that behalf, right? So I can now, what does that mean, right? For the sickness benefit, and that starts at the doctor's portal, and we'll get to that in the future. But so I'll be able to schedule an appointment if I want to register. And the only time you schedule appointments will be for long-term kind of things, right? Things that you have to come into Social Security. I need to bring in documentation. I need to, take fingerprint. I need to take my picture, anything like that I have to come into Social Security, then I need an appointment. For certain things like updating my address, I can just go to the portal, update my address, boom, done, right? Don't have to come into Social Security, don't need an appointment, none of that stuff, right? Later on, if I want to do a claim, I go in, fill out my claim information, submit all necessary information, whoop, that goes through. Few days later, money in my account, right? So that's the beauty of the portal. For the employer, you know, some of you are already using the portal to submit statements, right? So you go in, you upload. Some people copy statements from 1 month to the next, right? They jigger it and stuff so it's correct, and then boop, submit it, right? Some people have hundreds of employees. So what they do, they have a file, they upload the file, statements created, they check it out, yep, looks good, boop, submit, right? And then some other people, they only have a couple of employees, they go in, Actuarial, and they just copy from the last month and do that, or they might just type in. So whatever you want to do as an employer, you'll be able to do that. The other thing that you'll be able to see is all your transactions, right? So you'll see your history, statement history, all that stuff will be in the portal for you. So it's no longer like the OCP, what we call, people are familiar with what we call the online contribution portal, where you only submit the statements, boom, and that's it. No, this is a full tool for all the employers to manage and interact with Social Security with all the transactions they do with Social Security. So here's the portal. Employer services, that's how it looks. People are familiar with this, the new portal, right? So you have your navigation, navigation on the left there, right? And that allows you to navigate through the various functions on the portal. And then wherever you are in the portal, you see your actual transaction on that side. You see a history of your statements. If you go there and see your profile, you see your dashboard that has all your information. If you want to edit that information, you click on edit, and you can edit the information that you can do online. So remember, there only certain information you can edit online. If you're a company, like a limited liability company, and you want to change your name, what does that mean? Anybody tell me if you want to change the name of your company? It's not a simple thing, right? You got to go to a company registry, change the name there, get new documentation. So what does that mean for Social Security? You need to make an appointment, because you have to update that, you have to upload that information to us so we can change that. It might be, the nature of that change might be, it's a whole new company. What does that mean? It's a whole new registration, right? Because we need to keep the history of the company through time. Transactions. This is very important, so I'm going to spend a little time here. You know, when you submitted your statement in the OCP, right, and even right now, because we're like in a transition phase, kind of in the middle of the game right here, when you submit your statement and you want to pay, you go to the bank or you go online, what do you need? Anybody? Reference number, right? So you need that reference number. You put it in, boom, you pay, and you pay for that statement. Keep that in mind, you pay for that particular statement. Anybody can tell me which bank you have a loan, or BEL, or BTL, that you could go in and say, so you owe BTL, let's say $90 for last month, and you go in and tell BTL, I'm going to only pay for this month, I'll leave that last month. Tell me any place that will allow you to do that anymore, anytime, right? So the way Social Security is standardizing the way it does accounting, right? So back to the regular age accounting. So you will have an account. You do right now have an account with Social Security. That's your employer number, right? That's your account number. Now when you pay, you have a balance at Social Security. So you either have zero balance, which means you've been paying your statement on time and you don't have any balance, or you do have some balance, which means that you probably had an assessment and you're on a payment plan, right? And you have this monthly payment and so on, but you owe some money to Social Security. Now, when you go into pay, and this is not right now, but when the full transaction services are deployed, which is actually within a few weeks, that's why I'm getting this to you right now. When you go to pay, you give that employer number, you could go on the portal and you'll know what your balance is. It's either zero or you owe something, and you can see what those things are that you owe, Social Security, right? The line items. When you go on pay, let's say I have a zero balance, then I can go on and I have a statement for this month that's $100. I go in and pay $100, boom, that's done. But if I go onto my portal and I see I owe $420 somehow, right? There's a balance of $420. My statement for this month is $500. If I want to clear my account, like any other place, what do I have to pay? No. To clear the account. So I owe $420, it's on my account, and my new statement is $500. Yeah. So you have to pay everything. So the $920, right? So it's a $500 plus $420, $920, and then your zero balance. If you pay, let's say, $700, what happens is, in that order that you see there, so maybe I had an assessment, right? I had a payment plan of $90 a month, just for this, right? So what will happen? First thing gets deducted from that $700 is the $90, right? And then the second thing, if you have any fees owing to Social Security, that could be maybe a return check or any other fee like that, that gets deducted. Then let's say you have interest based on, statements that you have owing, right? The interest gets deducted. And then let's say after all that, I have, so the $420, so I have $300 left, right? That $300 would be applied to the oldest statement you have, like any other business. That's what happens at BTL. That's what happens at BEL. That's what happens at your bank, right? So what does that do? You will always know where you stand with Social Security in terms of your accounting. It makes it simple for you. No more jumping through, did I pay this statement? Nope. You got one account number. You pay toward that account, and done. And you will know exactly what you need to pay. Also, when you go to the bank and you say, this is my account number, bank, right? Put in that, the employer number. It'll tell you, the teller can tell you there, or the system can tell you online what your balance is, your total balance of Social Security. Right? So these are things we're doing to help you, and to ensure that proper compliance, and also make your life simpler and make our lives simpler. Any questions about that before I go? Nope? Clear as mud, right? So coming soon. So as I said, there are some new features that are coming, right? More things. So we already have the employer portal, right? So you'll have, right now you'll be able, in a few weeks, you'll be able to register online. Total, like if you have a new business, no longer have to come into Social Security with all your paper. Nope. Go online, register, upload whatever certificates or whatever you need. You'll get a call from Social Security. Part of that registration process is giving people access, right? So maybe you have somebody in payroll that you want specific access to do statements and so on. You give that person access. Those things you do during the registration process. Update information, right? So you go in, as I said, there's certain information you can update. Some you may need more work. And all your transactions, everything interaction you've had with Social Security, your history, all your statements, and your balance, everything like that. Your assessments, if you had any assessments, you know where that is. If it's at zero, you know what your payment plan, every interaction with Social Security you'll be able to see there as an employer. We'll also be able to we'll automate the compliance process. So it makes it easier for your inspector, your compliance officer to keep in touch with you to tell you, okay, this is where you are, everything's good, that kind of thing, right? we have what we call, the compliance officers use what we call an internal portal. Because if you notice, sometimes if you're behind on your statements, and an officer comes, they do an assessment, they need to create a statement for you, right? They can't use your portal. You're the only one who have access to that. So they will have their own internal portal that they can go in and create that statement. And then obviously the My Social Security portal, as I said, all your benefits, you will be able to claim your benefits there, see your benefits history, claim history, and those kinds of things, contribution history, which will be deployed pretty shortly. I know I promised that to you last time I was here, but there are certain things we have to take into consideration. We want to ensure that the information is complete as much as we can get it before we put it online, right? Because, you put your information on there, you might say, whoa, I used to work at this place from this time to this time, I don't see it, right? So we're trying to ensure that all that's cleared up before it goes online. It won't be perfect. I want to set expectations here, right? Lots of that stuff was on paper, right? So it won't be perfect, but we're giving you the tools so that you, as early as possible, get to us and say, hey, I used to work here, I don't see that data in my history, so we can clear that up. And then obviously the NCP portal. Again, NCP can go in and manage their relationship with Social Security from their portal. This is the other new thing that's coming, the healthcare provider portal, as I said. This will allow, so when somebody does a short-term claim, sickness, maternity, so on and so forth, that claim actually originates at the doctor's office. I don't know how many of you know this, but the claim, you don't start the claim. We don't start the claim. The doctor starts the claim, right? So what happens when you go to a doctor's office right now? You get a medical certificate. You get it. Sometimes you get it right away. Sometimes, man, go back and forth, So we're trying to eliminate that. We're trying to make it easier for the doctor because the doctor, they have lots of patients to see in a day. So they're trying to get you done. You get your diagnosis and stuff. They might have time to do that right there. And the problem is with the doctor also, when they do the medical certificate, it's handwritten. A doctor's handwriting, I'm not, my mind's as bad, but, So when you, guess what happens now, right? So you bring that thing to Social Security, we get the claim, we start typing in information, and we're like, oh, what the heck is this? What happens? You call the doctor, and this is back and forth, can't find the doctor, don't know where he is. So your time for your claim is expanding. The doctor is getting annoyed because the Social Security keeps bugging me. I got patients to see, but I have to stop here and talk to somebody about handwriting, right? So it helps the doctor because as soon as they sit down with the patient and they're done with the diagnosis, they type that into they log in, type that information in the portal. It's adheres to ICD-11 standards, which means that no longer trying to interpret what the illness is. It's all according to specific codes, right? So all that confusion goes out the window. Don't say we're human. I'm not saying all confusion will be gone. I'm saying that most of it, 90% of it, will be cleared up. Which means you get your claim quicker, right? You know all this time that you spend going back and forth is gone. Once the doctor submits that thing, you get home, you feel good enough, you log into your portal, you see a thing say, hey, claim ready to be completed. You put in all your information, and if everything is right, so let's say all the conditions are met for you. You have your proper amount of claims, contributions, the medical survey is complete, everything is done. Tell me how quick that happens. It goes, once everything is correct, and the engine in the system says everything's correct, zip, that goes straight out to payment whenever the next payment schedule is. Right, so those are some of the things that we're trying to do, and that's how the HCP will help us with that, because it'll cut down on that miscommunication that always happens between the doctor and the people trying to process your claims, and even the IP, right? And so the other, one of the things that was a part of the employer portal that you will have. So one of the things that your responsibility in this, for people, let's say someone just started working, right? And they have the first month of contribution, but the next month, it's not till the 14th before that'll get declared or submitted to Social Security. What happens? They give you a paper, you got to fill out salary record, right? But what will happen, you will get an email and a notification on your portal, say, hey, Ward claimed sick today, right? You need to go online on your portal, and we'll give you the tool. Go to this tool, fill out their salary thing, submit it. Boom, that comes straight to Ward's portal. He continues, and everything's good, right? So those are some of the things that we're trying to do, and that's in the coming soon piece of it. And that's my presentation for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Ward, for that very informative presentation about my Social Security online portal. At this time, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the annual report and the complete financials are available online on the Social Security Board's website. It would be under support. If you scroll all the way down at the bottom of that page, you'll see a category called support, and underneath that, you just go to publications, and then you will see the annual report for 2022, as well as the section that says financial reports, and you'll get the entire financials right there. At this time, then, we will move to the vote of thanks, which will be given by Mrs. Deborah Ruiz, Social Security Board's CEO.
Well, it's already good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would just like to give a brief thank you for your presence here today. The Social Security Board remains committed to its mission to deliver a customer-centered and financially sustainable Social Security program that provides lifetime coverage to its beneficiaries. We remain committed to keep the promises to keep stakeholders engaged and be fully transparent regarding the process being made in addressing the Social Security financial and social sustainability. I wish to express a thank you to our committee members and the working groups that have had oversight of certain functions for the work to strengthen our governance. We have our board subcommittees, we have our appeal tribunals, the National Health Insurance Committee, the non-contributory committee, our pension committee that was chaired by the late Canon Flowers from its inception, and we thank him and his family for the support that they have given to him to carry out this very important work. We also have our appeal tribunal members, and those are representatives from employers. We have the legal fraternity that partake in these things, and we also have our medical practitioners and support services who form part of our medical board and referee proceedings in order to determine the invalidity, disability, and those type of things. So we thank all these persons for the work that they have been doing and doing well for Social Security. I would also like to convey a special thanks to the many people that have worked tirelessly to make today's event happen. I know it may look easy, but it's not easy to put together. Social Security has a wealth of information, and trying to fine-tune what is the most important points. But I encourage you to pay attention to the official documentations on our website, which has much more information, and we stand ready at any point to answer further questions. I would like to thank Ms. Cindy Burgos and her companion for her rendition of the national anthem, Ms. Veas for her brief invocation, Norman Sprinthouse for assisting us with the hard copies of the 2022 annual report, Mr. Raul Villanueva, our decorator, Avant-Garde for their assisting us with the live broadcasting on Facebook, and of course the staff and the Best Western plus Biltmore Plaza for the venue and the services provided to us today. Our general managers, Mrs. Leticia Vega, Ms. Arlene Neal, Mr. Leo Vasquez, Mr. Ward McGregor, and our actuary, Mr. Montas, for taking the time to be in Belize with us today for their valuable presentations and contribution to this SSB Connect conversation. As well, a big thank you to our communication and public relations team, our staff at the executive services, our customer service team, and our inspectors who are here to assist with portal sign-ups. We want to thank especially Ms. Vanessa, our MC for today, for her work in coordinating today's events. Finally, our chairman, thank you very much for taking the time for being with us, Mrs. Nigeli Sosa. We have our board of directors members. Thank you so much for being here. The chairman of our investment committee has taken the time to be with us. We really appreciate your presence. And all the staff of SSB and NHI, Dr. Figueroa, thank you for being here today, for your unwavering dedication and support to the vision and mission to be of service to the people of Belize in terms and looking forward in your best interest to expanding our social protection system. We will continue the good work with our UN partners, with the government of Belize, with the unions and all our stakeholders to further the discussion and get back to you. We do thank Dr. Philip Castillo, who is in the audience today. He will be conducting a small focus group discussion with the key stakeholders tomorrow. It's part of our strategy for the next 5 years to get feedback from stakeholders about concerns they have and how they would like to see the Social Security program operating in the future. Thank you once again for your presence in the room and virtually on Facebook, for your interest and participation. Right? Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, CEO. So thank you once again for coming here today and being a part of the 4th annual SSB Connect. Enjoy the rest of your day.